Hi, my name is Sarah. When I was born, my parents gave me the name Sarah, a name that sounds to me quite old, but they did it because it was after my mother's mother name. And my sister, I have only one sister, she was called Shoshana after my father's mother name. We lived in Tel Aviv in a little neighborhood, and all our life in the 50s and the 60s, my parents and parents of other of my friends never spoke about what happened there. We only knew as little children that our parents came from there. But what happened there, this was a great mystery. Why didn't they tell anything? Maybe they wanted us to have better life, more optimistic, or maybe they were a little ashamed of being these Holocaust survivors who were blamed they went to the gas chambers without any resistance. Anyway, only in the 60s, when there was Eichmann trial, suddenly in the radio we began hearing and listening to testimonies of Holocaust survivors. And when I approached my mother and said, "Mom, have you been there? Have you had the same experience?" She looked at me and she said, "Yes." This was shocking, but she didn't tell me more. Until my children grew up and they began going to Poland and tour from their high school, so they opened a little my parents and they began telling them some of the stories, but not all of it. This was still a great mystery that I knew only from books. There were hardly movies in those days. 2004, my father, who had died, came to me with an ad from the newspaper and said, "Look, there is a course in Yad Vashem training tour guides to Poland, to lead groups." I looked and I said, "It's about time. It's about time I move this curtain and go behind it to learn the story of my family and of those who perished there, and maybe try to understand where I'm coming from." And then after the course, I began leading groups to Poland. I remember the first time in the summer of 2004 when I got there, I remember going to the place of the crematorium where they used to burn the bodies after the gas chamber, and I remember lighting a candle. The next day I called my parents and said, "I lit a candle for the memory of your parents." I began leading groups of high school kids and later adults. In the beginning, I thought my duty, my destiny, is to carry the torch of memory. But while going to Poland dozens of times, I understood that there is a bigger role than just carrying the torch of memory. Because when we go to Poland, we are following the steps of the men, steps of human being, and we are looking for the human being there. The human being maybe among the murderers, the witnesses, and of course among the victims. And when you come back from Poland, you don't come back the same, you come different. You are connected to the person, to the woman you, to the mother, to the child, to your family, and to the Jewish people. Everyone who has been to Poland, they come different, they are not the same, and it's really building another part of your personality. The tour to Poland has three main goals. One goal is to learn about the Jewish history, 800 years of Jews who have lived in Poland since the 12th century, and they no longer live there, and you only have remains and you are looking for their remains. The second goal is the Holocaust, that you try to understand a little, not so much. And the third goal is to understand Poland of today and how Poland is coping with this story, which is not easy for the Polish people as well. I would like to end maybe with a small story about my mother. When I finished my course in Yad Vashem in 2004, my father kept telling me, "Why don't you take Mom with you to Poland?" He refused to go, and my mother, who was married to him 60 years until he died, refused to leave his side. They've been married 60 years, never left each other. After he died, I was with a tour of high school kids from a town next to Tel Aviv, and my mother was visiting my sister who lives in Stockholm, Sweden, and we spent the same weekend on the soil of Europe. So I called them and said, "This is a an opportunity that will never come back. Get on an airplane and come to Krakow. Eventually they came, and Sunday morning they joined my delegation, the high school kids, and we were standing in front of the gates of Birkenau, Auschwitz. And before we went in, I turned to my mother and I said to her, "Mom, will you lead us back into this camp and tell us, share with us your story?" Two high school kids came and they held my mom in her arms with two Israeli flags, and this is how we marched into the camp, and she told her story. She never regret the fact that she went there. It was really building her personality again, and really it was like a cure to the trauma that she faced in those horrible days of the Holocaust.